What's up, folks? Happy Friday. You're catching me on a vacation down in Savannah, Georgia. I wanted to check in because this is the last live stream before the big election that's coming up. And I wanted to answer the question people have been asking about, like, what's going to happen? Spoiler alert, I bet the market's going to go up, but no opinions on who's going to win. We're just going to look at statistics. Also, need to talk about Bitcoin. Some really, really interesting price action going on that I want to talk about. It's kind of a wonky week we've had. It should have broken out, but it doesn't seem like it wants to. So we're going to talk about that definitely after the music. Let people filter in, and we'll get right to it. So if you're catching this later, fast forward. If not, hang on. I'll be right back. All right. Once again, happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for joining me here. I am on a connection that I'm confident about, but we'll see if you guys get some buffering. Let me know. Hopefully, don't have to restart the live stream. So, two high points I want to talk about. It's mainly going to be elections and Bitcoin, and those two can actually be tied together. If you guys have symbols to look at for the last half of the live stream, but definitely post them in here. I've got my topics I want to talk about, but I also want to do this. I do this for you guys. I want to do this for opportunity generation. And a lot of my regulars come in and they have some really great trading ideas. A lot of stuff that comes to levels that I really want to take, and often I do take. And so I really enjoy that idea generation that comes from the live streams. And this week, last week, I talked about the potential of actually starting a fund or at least an account and then making sort of like a YouTube series to that effect where I would actually just take the trades that I liked that people put in the chat. And yeah, that'd be a really excellent idea. I'd love to do that. So I went on to Robinhood to set it up because last week I talked about how Robinhood's margin rate, it's basically an interest rate, margin rate, was so much lower than Charles Schwab and others. And I wanted to set up a second account on Robinhood, but they don't allow that by individuals. So I didn't set it up this week because I haven't figured out what brokerage I want to have it at. So I'll follow up with that more when I get back in my office next week. I may actually start that, but yeah, I want to do that. I want to start a account that is based on live stream calls, basically that you guys call out. Maybe ones that I look at. I mean, if it's something I like that fits the rules that I talk about, it makes me really feel good that people pay attention to the rules that I put forth, which are very useful. Has a good trade that played out from last week into this week with a Citigroup. That would have been an example of one. And I am, like I said, I'm on vacation, so I left my notebook at home. I actually still write stuff on notebooks, but we'll look at that next week. But as I said in the thumbnail, want to talk about the election coming up, not who I think or want to win, because I make it a point not to go into politics on this because of the reason I'm going to present, which is that whoever wins, spoiler, whoever wins, I bet the market's going to go up. And that a lot of people have been, coming to me and, asking me like, well, what are you buying? And, what do you care about the election? Everybody's saying that the world's going to end next week. It's not. And we're going to actually look at the statistics, the actual hard statistics. We're going to do that first, and then we're going to look at Bitcoin because I've got this up on the screen. Something really interesting and cool happened this week. It's not a thing that I trade on, but that level right there, that line right there, I'm going to explain why that's important. And it's just kind of cool. It's one of these kind of esoteric price action things. But yeah, Bitcoin price action this week has been very interesting. I mean, it's like, look at this weekly bar. Like I've published a live stream and then a separate YouTube video as well as a trading view video about this particular level 2 weeks ago. This 69, let's call it 69,420 for humor's sake. And it really pushed for the all-time high this week and didn't quite get there. And that's weird. That's super weird. Honestly, I'm gonna stay neutral about. I'm not neutral, but I'm bearish. But I need to kind of taper my surprise because I honestly thought that I was gonna have to liquidate my shorts. Like if we busted above the all-time high, I'm gonna be wrong, and I just got to accept that. But it didn't happen. So we're gonna see. We're gonna look at that here in a bit. But let's just go through the election stuff. I want to assuage people's fears. I want to assuage people's concerns, and just present the facts as in statistics, and just as a kind of a quick mark of humility. I'm not a statistician, so and people that know statistics will know that making a judgment based on these things is not exactly accurate. Why? Because really we've only had about 25 different presidents in the last 150 years. And so really you need a sample size of 30 to be statistically significant. But let's just present some of the things here. Now, I did a little bit of research to come into. There's a lot of different articles. If you just go and look at, like, do a search for Stock Market Almanac. It's been a book that's been released once a year for many years now. It has a lot of cool statistics, like what happens in the elections. But essentially, the couple of things you can just find online for resources. Which party winning is going to be better for the stock market? That's the ultimate question. They say if Kamala wins, the war, everything's going to go bad, or Trump just wins, everything's going. No. Now, what I will tell you, based on 2016 and 2020, was election night. If you want to get in some good trading, there's going to be a lot of volatility. Go back and look at the price action. We'll do this here. Actually, let's just do that in a minute. We'll look at the price action of 2016 because I sat with a bunch of friends back then and traded it. And it was a crazy futures night actually. But essentially, there's a couple of different situations that can happen in American politics. And this is just for the United States stock market, which drives a lot of stuff. So you can have a Republican president win, you can have a Democrat president win, and then you also have control of Congress by either of the two political parties. And these present different statistics that come about. Okay. And by the way, if you guys have symbols to look at in the chat for the last half, make sure you put them in. By the way, if you're watching and you're liking this, make sure that you do the like and all that subscribe algorithmic stuff because it helps me to teach these methods that frankly work. So, and also I want to delve into this point in the chat. Ethereum more clearly talks about what crypto wants to do and how I feel about prop firms. And hey, Alexander, what's up? Yay, we're going to talk more about that, Alexander, in this stream about the Bitcoin because it's been an interesting week, hasn't it? If you just look at that weekly bar versus what I talked about last week. All right, so basically we can see from the right-hand side of this chart that the answer is what's going to happen, likely the highest probability after next Tuesday is stock market go up. And that's because that's what the stock market has done for years upon years. Doesn't mean the next year will be, doesn't mean we won't hit a recession. We don't know these things. But statistically, we have no real reason to be worried. We don't. I mean, the statistics are not such that we should be worried about what particularly happens. It's going to fall outside. It's going to be something else. It's going to be something else that drives the market reaction. But what actually seems to be one of the best. Hold on. This is data from 1926 through 2023. So if you have president and unified Republican, then the annual average return, I wonder how they calculate this one, is about 14%. If you have a unified Democrat, that means Congress and Democrat president, also 14%. So virtually the same. Divided with a Republican president, in other words, you have a Republican president, but you have either the House or the Senate that is a mixed, you'll have 7.6. The best performance is if you have a Democratic president and a mixed divided Congress. So doesn't necessarily make sense. You would think that if everyone was in agreement, people would be happy, they'd pass things. But the best thing is to have, Democratic control of the presidency and Congress to not be on their side. So look at some other statistics from this. There's another breakdown that I found as well, a little infographic, which kind of puts it into perspective here. So these are just things I pulled from the web here. So yeah, once again, and this is going back from 1950 to 2003, 23, another before now. Again, basically the best results come from having a Democratic president with a divided Congress. In other words, Democrat president wins and Congress is divided. There's one more. Okay, here's the other one I thought was very very telling. Let me find the one that goes back all the way. This is the one that comes from, I believe, the Stock Market Almanac, which goes all the way to 1833. Now, I don't know exactly if the stock market was as it was back then. I think they were still meeting underneath a tree on Wall Street back in 1833 in New York as it began. But as the years follow, so of course you're going to have presidents are going to serve for 4 years. So this is the average. The post-election year, 3%. It's going to be the least. The midterm year, which is the next year, which you're going to have a midterm election, you're going to have a little bit slightly better. The best year is the third year of the presidency, which is, I believe, would that be this year or the last year? I think that would be the 2023. Yeah. So, and that last year, 2023, definitely fit within that cycle. And then the elections year itself, which is this year, has the second best. So, of those, we can presume statistically that next year, 2025, will have the least good year based on the presidential cycle. And then it sort of ramps up into the year 2027, which should be, according to the presidential cycle, a good year. That's what the statistics tell us. Now, if we normalize that for how much the stock market goes up versus how much it goes down, that means that if you're going to bet on having a great stock market, you want to do it in those pre-election years, so 2023, 2027, 2031, and if you have a Democrat president with a divided Congress, go nuts. That's going to be your best, highest probability. Now, that's only going to happen every couple of years, not a couple. It's only going to happen every once in a while. But remember that. If you're going to remember anything, remember that little confluence of events for what has the best performance of the stock market. So, just to kind of sum it up, to make everyone feel better, no matter what happens next week, stock market go up. And but that being said, the next year, 2025, actually will probably have the least good performance of the presidential cycle. Yeah, so that's what the statistics tell us, and that's outside the opinion of who should or can look. I My personal opinion about it is, this is not going to be who I pick, is that a president really can't help the economy as much as they say they can. And our presidents love to claim that they are the cause of a good economy and then blame the bad economy on their predecessor. And that's just a whole political meme. I do think that probably with certain policies, a president could hurt the economy. But again, it's really just kind of overblown. It's entirely overblown by people trying to, paint some kind of narrative for their own campaign or trying to paint a narrative for their preferred side. But there's really not much that matters when it comes to the stock market's going to do what it's going to do. The economy is going to truck along. I would say that perhaps the only thing you could say about the stock market's performance is that the stock market abhors uncertainty. And that is definitely something that can happen in any case. I mean, anytime you have uncertainty about world events, anytime that you have uncertainty about what the future is going to bring, interest rates, etc., that is when the stock market gets very antsy and tends to do badly. Is when it doesn't know what's going to happen. We never have certainty, but the stock market really wants it to. So that's the gist of it. How are we doing on connection, by the way? How are we doing on connection? Just curious on that. Seems to be doing fair. I'm on 5G, by the way. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go back and look at. I want to now. I am going to be hanging out with a bunch of buddies. We're going to barbecue, and we're going to watch the election. We're going to watch different sources for sure. But let's go back to 2016 that night because I was hanging out online with folks, at least in the latter part of it, in the late hours. Let me find it here. I was watching it at there. I mean, you can even see it right there. See that November bar right there? That November bar. That's a weird looking bar, isn't it? Well, you're not wrong if you observe that. See that spike there? That is the election night. Let's dig down into that. So let's go down to the 30-minute and find that night. I believe it was like in the wee hours of the. Yeah, there we go. So this is Tuesday, November 18th. So basically at in the evening time, and then as the polls started coming in showing that Trump was going to win, the stock market started going down, and then it's not really. And again, it goes back to what I said. It's not about the fact that the stock market saw that Trump was sure to win, that um, it then went up. It was more that at the point of about midnight, or as the midnight onward, as it became clear who was going to win, the uncertainty went away. Like the down move of the stock market is not who the stock market wanted, as some might say, because clearly it was very bipolar. It was the uncertainty that made it go down, and then the certainty, which stocks like, it goes up. And that's my interpretation of it. And I think that's actually what is the best narrative for that. So if you're going to be trading on election night, if there's a lot of uncertainty, as there may be, at being as close as it is, then stock market will probably go down because it doesn't like uncertainty. But if it starts to kind of be certain one way or the other, stock market will probably go up. That's going to be my thesis going into it. Who knows? But either way, if you are so inclined to trade futures, I mean, this right here from top to bottom was over 125 points. That's a lot of futures to be happening at midnight Eastern time, American time. So yeah, there's some good juicy volatility next Tuesday night if that's your sort of thing. I'm probably just going to be hanging out, uh, watching TV. But and I'll have a laptop up. I'll have a chart up. If I see something interesting and juicy, I'll trade it. What's up, Volv? Good to see you. So yeah, let's look at 2020. Let's look at 2020. I for some reason I don't have as I remember I was sitting there at a bar watching um, the election come in 2016, as well as talking with some friends online. No, I went home. Excuse me. I watched it up until about midnight. Then I went home and started hanging out with my trader buddies, and that's why I remember that because I caught it on an upswing and didn't get that full amount of points, but made some money. So I remember that. But 2020, I don't have quite the recollection. Let's go back to 2020 and look at what happened. I bet you that spike right there, that's Monday. Yeah. So let's see. Hang on. Let's play this in the bar simulator. So yeah, so that was Monday. That's Friday, and then we're going at wait. Yeah, okay. So it would have been the first full Tuesday, and so let's see. I don't remember trading this as much. There's Tuesday, Wednesday. Wait a minute. When was that? I think it was just because it didn't really. No, it would have been this. It would have been right in here. So Tuesday would have been, yeah, so it would have been Tuesday the 3rd of 2020. That would have been the last election. Yeah, and so we're coming in. How big of a move is that? Yeah, it just wasn't as much. That's why I don't remember it as much. I mean, okay, that's still about 100 points of volatility. So it's just part of a more bullish trend. But the thing about that, as I said, it kind of speaks to my theory about certainty. In other words, the polls showed that Biden was going to win, and then sure enough, he wins. So there wasn't really much, uncertainty. But the fact that so many people had planned for Hillary to win in 2016, that the polls were showing that it was going to be a blowout for her. The fact that that was showing uncertainty was what made it go down. But then once the market had certainty, it went up. Okay, so we can still take from that uncertainty down, certainty up. Let's take that away, regardless of who wins or not. So the fact that we're going into it supposedly neck and neck, who knows? But you got about 100 points of futures contracts you can trade if you want to. Hey, good to see you, COVID. So, yeah, but don't stress yourself out about who wins. I mean, I know it's like sports, whose team is what. Yeah. So, all right, let's transition because Bitcoin might fall into this thing because the candidates have sort of in their own ways been patronizing the crypto communities, But again, I don't think much is going to change there, depending on who wins and who not. But aside from that, we got to talk about Bitcoin, this price action here. And by the way, if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat too. I love talking to you guys. So this, when I started off the live stream talking about with Bitcoin, these little two circles right here, this little double bottom is really kind of cool. And I'll show you why. Now, I don't trade on wedges or triangles or even diagonal lines, and I don't like to. Let's just start out with a fresh, clean chart. Take away some indicators here so I can speak to it. I don't like to because I've been looking on Twitter this week at people's opinions, see where they are. I will say this though, one of the themes as this week was going on, because it ran up pretty heavily Monday and Tuesday of this week. It made a serious run for the all-time high. I really thought, and remember, I'm short. I'm short with BITI, not short Bitcoin, but I'm hedged short with BITI and futures. And so I just figured that I'm going to be wrong, and we're going to make a new all-time high, and all the Bitcoin maxis are going to be correct. Maybe they still will be, but man, it missed it by just like $125. Wow, that's weird. But the vibe, the sentiment has been that I've read, you're not bullish enough. I mean, there's so much excitement, and it's been building, and you can see it. Like, the market really abhors a consolidation, and there's just so much excitement that people are building about this whatever number they think Bitcoin's going to go to. Because let's face it, a lot of people have their entire financial futures, or at least part of it, betting on Bitcoin doing big stuff. And so people have been really excited about it. But a lot of people have been focusing on the triangle or whatever, the trend line. So let's just draw this out the way people tend to do. So in that's kind of, so hold on a second. Where's my, why is my array doing something weird? All right, let me fix that. So I kind of have a problem with, come on. Oh, hold on. There we go. I kind of have a beef with these lines because they're so arbitrary. In other words, you got a lot of highs that you can draw this on. You can draw it from that high, but then, these highs don't quite work, right? What I chose to draw it on is from that high to that high, because that really kind of encompasses all of the highs, okay? And that's what actually created this very interesting confluence that I talked about, I've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 weeks, because that peak right there ended up being a stopping point of the little rally that we had up here, which was also matching with the past all-time high from 2021 at right about here. Oh. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I thought that was going to be it. But no, it pushed past it. But then this week, and it's actually best expressed by looking at the weekly chart. And we still have, remember, we still have 2 days of weekend to get through this weekly here. But this green bar right here, it held it for one week, held it for 2 weeks, and then this week may be the 3rd week that it holds this level. That's crazy. But then today just alone, remember that yellow line that I just drew? Like the market knows this level's here. Like, look at this. The past all-time high is 68,997 according to the TradingView index, and then you have that diagonal line, or that goes from high to high, and that's what it hit here today to make this double bottom. Wow. I definitely don't trade off of the diagonal line, but I do off of past supports and resistances. And of course, if you watched my videos from last 2 weeks, you also saw there's a third level there, which is a volume profile level, all at this level. The market knows that level's there. And I get into this with, Bitcoin maxis a lot, who they just don't believe in price action at all, because why would they? Bitcoin's going to go up. Surely it has to, because reasons. It's limited supply, right? So why even worry about it? But this kind of stuff just proves and demonstrates that the market knows where these levels are. Other traders may know where they are. Maybe a lot of people have buy orders here. That's what creates it. But that also creates defining lines for us to know, like what price action is likely to do. And so while we've had a lot of play between essentially the past all-time high, which it just annoyingly didn't hit. That's kind of like, that should be like a little lesson you kind of mark in your brain, that you always want to kind of play a little off base when you come to your targets. It does a little annoying stuff like this all the time if you've been trading long enough. But it's caught between, these two levels, the 73,700 and the 68,900, or as I've kind of humorously started talking, 69,420. That's a lot more interesting of a level, but it's caught. And where this week closes is going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm going to be honest. I was sure that, well, one thing I talked about last week, what I was very, very confident, is if you got a break of that level, of those resistance levels, which you did on Monday, it's almost entirely guaranteed that price will traverse from that level up to the all-time high. Okay, that is, and that happened, and that's something I want you guys to kind of take to the bank and remember. When you have price coming up, it doesn't matter how messy it is in the past. A lot of people get confused by this high, this high, this high, this high. Don't. When you have such a clear level as like the past all-time high, price is just going to go to it. Now it missed it by a little bit to annoy people, but you've got about $4,000, maybe $3,500 of Bitcoin movement in there. That was the Monday and Tuesday breakout. That was almost guaranteed, but it stopped. What I really thought was going to happen, and it may still happen, is you were going to get possibly let me draw this out with like, is this a bar? You're going to get like a little daily bar that would push a little bit higher, and then maybe come a little bit up a little bit more, but then let me change the colors on this to make it more. So blue, right, or green. Let's do this. But then what you would end up happening is you would either just go absolutely freaking nuts, and there's your breakout. That's what people are wanting, and at that point, all bets are off. At that point, everyone's going to FOMO in. But that hasn't happened yet. Or what you're going to see is a come back to retest and hold that former all-time high. And that's one of the best situations you can find, because then you can buy it there for the potential breakout, knowing that you only need to give it a small amount of risk. Because if it kind of gets back inside the all-time high, that's not good. But that could potentially end up being a good breakout and pullback. Breakout, pullback to confirm, and then back to the situation of all bets are off. Okay? So that would have been another very good situation for bullish. But, and this is kind of where my bread and butter comes from, these are the kind of trades that I really look for, is false breakouts. In other words, if you did get above the all-time high, then got back inside this zone right here, that is a bad, bad thing. And that's basically what happened in the week. That's what happened here back in March, like right here, this March 11th weekly bar. It got above that past all-time high from 2021 and then closed back inside it for 2 weeks, and then just could not break, and it just kept on hitting it. And that's why you had the full retracement back to under 50K. You know what? The levels matter. Levels matter. And that's what it's fighting right now. Now, It's in a weird state. It really is, especially now that as we're closing the trading, we're closing all the derivatives, we're closing all the futures for the week here on Friday, right back at this level, this support from where it began. I mean, it's a battle. It's a battle between these two levels, and whoever wins this battle over the next week or two, that's going to be the answer of it. Now, we have a catalyst coming next week, don't we? We have the election. And the market has kind of decided who is best for Bitcoin based upon rhetoric. So, but that could go either. Well, that being, I'll just give the spoiler. If Trump wins, people may bid up Bitcoin. If Trump does not win, it may fall. But wherever it goes in here, could have a lot of volatility. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I'm just going to say I don't know. It's caught. I really, really thought, and I think everyone on Twitter, everyone that cares for it to go up, really thought this was it. It may still be it. In fact, it's probably most likely this close and holding this support today to go up. But there's still that non-zero, very non-zero. Let's put it. Let me put it in this part. You have a 75% chance of this thing breaking out, and you have a 25% of this thing not. The difference, though, is that if it doesn't, I don't know if there's going to be another quite shot as this. I mean, this is kind of like the last chance it has before this expanding triangle, whatever you want to call it, goes back down to the downside. I've been looking for a return to the 40s, and until it does a confirmed breakout, that is still my thesis. But if it does, try to fight this at all. But yeah. How high will BTC dominance go? Jeremiah asked. Well, Jeremiah, the question I've always had with looking at the Bitcoin dominance is, how do I trade that? Like, what trade can I base upon that? And the answer has never been really obvious to me. I mean, it kind of shows what Bitcoin's doing relative to other cryptocurrencies. I mean, everyone wants, well, not everyone, but people want to see an altcoin season again. But yeah. This is the most clear and say this bullish trend has a lot of problems. But you'll find the vast preponderance of people on social media who are heavily invested in Bitcoin saying, get ready. I think that's the difference. All right. So I was made aware that let's take a look at one thing. So MicroStrategy, we got to talk about MicroStrategy. I don't know what, let me just say the narrative, okay? So the narrative is that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy have discovered, they unironically say this, the infinite money glitch. And by that, what they mean is, here's how the process goes. And basically, MicroStrategy is it is a derivative of Bitcoin, a leveraged Bitcoin play. Now, there are leveraged ETFs out there, Bitcoin, but MicroStrategy is the craziest. So basically, here's the infinite money glitch as has been presented. Coin with the debt. Okay, so they buy Bitcoin. They then put Bitcoin on as asset on balance sheet, which then increases the share price. Repeat. Infinite money glitch, apparently. And it works great as long as Bitcoin's going up. It really does. And if MicroStrategy can buy enough Bitcoin, if they can constrain enough supply, if they can drive up the price, then they can issue more shares. Then they can buy more Bitcoin. Then they can make Bitcoin price go up. And then they can make their share price go up. And then they can dilute their shares some more. That is the infinite money glitch. Let me find something. Yeah, just in a second. I've been talking to you for a second. Let me find this thing real quick, and then we're going last half. We're going to look at your symbols right here. And Zishan, I don't know if you came in here later, but I really, and you're one of my best providers of opportunities. Actually, I wanted to set up a fund. Well, not a fund, but just an account. And I want to do it on Robinhood using the things I talked about last week. Your ideas, some other ideas, and then anything that I like. Basically, why not just throw either 500 or 1,000 into it, and then do like this dividend guy does, and make a YouTube video maybe once a month. Come with a little recap. I think it'd be fun, good content too, and I feel confident in these because they're coming from levels that I teach. But Robinhood won't let you have multiple accounts under your name, so I'll work on that this week. See if I either need to close the one I have, sell everything, or what. We'll see. We'll see. One of my favorite trolls when it comes to Bitcoin is Peter Schiff. You guys have seen him before. But he talked about the infinite money glitch, at least in the abstract, with a fable, not a fable, I guess what you could call a story. Where is it? He trails a lot. Now, a friend of mine, he pointed out to me that Peter Schiff manages a tens of $1 million fund, and so really it doesn't matter if he's right. His job is really to be an influencer and make sure people know who he is, because that gets more funds under management. So whether he's right or not, more people put their money with him, and he makes money. That's the thing about that's the funny thing about things. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. We're not seeing this. Oh, here we go. Hang on. There we go. Okay. So I'll just post this in the chat for you guys and start reading it, because we need to get into the symbols here. But essentially, Michael Saylor is the Eggman. You can pause it and read if you want to before we go on. But I thought this was a very funny way to put it. And again, this story goes back probably 100. Somebody probably had this story 100 years ago, because one of my favorite books on the stock market is The Stock Operator, which talks about a lot of these common psychological phenomenon that people get into when it comes to markets, and just the idea that you can keep this kind of a pyramid thing going in perpetuity is very intoxicating. It's very attractive to people, and people honestly start to believe it. But the history of finance is littered with great ideas that sounded really smart, absolutely blowing up. Now, when that's going to happen, who knows? Because that whole adage, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent, applies. So the other thing that was brought to my attention is that there is actually a inverse leveraged short MicroStrategy, and Jen got into it. Yeah, sorry, I'm on a 5G connection. Oh, it's probably getting a little choppy. That was actually better than the Wi-Fi here. Sorry. But let's see, how are we doing on that? Yeah. But yeah, so SMST is that particular thing. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second here. Hang on. Uno momento, por favor. Okay. All right. Did a little tweak to my reception. Hopefully that'll make it a little bit better. All right. So yeah, let's look at the symbols. Let's get into that. But yeah, so the reason I bring this up is because as you guys know, if you were to just short shares on something, you you'll have unlimited risk, and so I do not advocate for that. But either doing puts, which I have, or doing a leverage ETF, the risk is going to be big, but it's going to be fixed. And so if you're going to short something that's going gangbusters, if you really want to express that opinion, uh, do it smartly with fixed risk, because you never know when it's going to stop. I think it will eventually, but we'll see. All right, let me go through. Let's do a lightning round of the symbols. Yeah, okay. How about now? Is the roboting going away, or are we running into a big problem here? Good for now. Okay. Yeah, I moved my phone to the window, so we'll see. Hey, what's up? All right, so let's look at the things. So LLY, this is one that I am long, so it's definitely in my book. It's definitely in my watch list here. So I got to ask if there was if there was a spike this week. Not quite exactly. I still have this charted, but let's. I mean, it's essentially on earnings came down to a support at about 775. I'm long. I actually added a little more when it came down to here back in August. It came down to here on earnings, held it again. I think it's fine. I've owned this thing for a long time. Uh, I hope it holds, but at least I know where it needs to hold, and that is that level. And so we have a line in the sand that LOI needs to hold, otherwise not good. Am I nervous? Maybe a little, because I would have not liked it to come back a second time, but sometimes it does that. Speaking of coming back and holding something for a second time, Citigroup, this was a trade from last week, which I've been talking about on Discord, and that I picked up on the 30-minute spike from Tuesday over a week ago, and it finally reached my target at 64.21. Took some profit. It held it most of this week, but now we have it broke below it, so I'm still holding on to it. I'm not gonna. I'm. It's fine. It's fine. But that's also coming off of support right there. But yeah, so it came down, hit it again on Friday. Still okay. Intel this week. I don't think someone asked that yet, but I actually bought Intel this week, and then they had earnings. And one of the things that I've been looking for was Intel to finally pull back to a 50% level. Volume profile didn't really come into this, but the main thing that came into my decision on Intel was the 50% of this push up. Now that's what I want to see. Intel is at a 21-year low, and so I've been very interested in picking it up as a contrarian play. But I wanted to be really patient, and so you finally had this big, nice run up here from September the 11th to September 27th, and it finally hit this level, 21.59. Wednesday of last week. Now I had an alert at like 21.56 and it missed it by a few pennies. So I FOMO'd in right around here at about 22.45 on Tuesday this week. I say FOMO because it already hit my level. All I asked for was perfection, but sometimes you don't get it. But you know what? I didn't need to. This is why sometimes being patient, oftentimes being patient is fine. Because right before earnings, the day before earnings, came down 21.59. Held, and yeah, well, now we'll see if it goes up. So Intel is the one thing that I picked up this week. Added a little more today when it dipped down at the open. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable about Intel, actually. Tech as a whole, looking at Google, I think Google did some big things. I have held Google for a very, very long time as well. In fact, I've held it before it did a stock split into the two splits, GOOG and GOOGL. Yeah, this week, earnings, good. It's tech. People keep asking me about tech. They keep on asking me, is now the time to buy tech? I think you really just kind of have to hold at this point. My general rule for things is if you're going to look to get into something, that you've been looking to get into for a long time. I think SMCI this week had some really bad news. Their accounting firm dropped them, which means that that insinuates that there's potentially some fraud. I know based on the fact that I have this drawn already on the chart that a couple of live streams ago I must have talked about this, and the the volume profile for this whole area back here in last year is 2677. And this is why when it comes to tech stuff, I know it's so tempting to buy stuff on little pullbacks like this. Little small pullbacks on tech, like 40 little small 40% pullbacks can be very attractive, but on high flying stocks, you need to wait for 50, 68%. I think last week I said waiting for a 2/3 off sale is generally good because, man, this thing's already back down to 77%. But this is actually pretty interesting support here. But it really needs to hold here, 2677 on that. Am I buying it here? No. I'm going to wait for something like I saw in Intel where you get that little push up. In other words, a little bit of buying, people buying off that low, and then look for a setup, like a 50% of that little push up. Net. Yeah, a lot of people are getting interested in tech. Guys, tech, it's very attractive because we're looking at the recent, and I say by recent I say the last few years performance, and we're seeing some red numbers, and we're like, oh, I want to catch into it. But anything you like, I guarantee if you just kind of wait long enough, you're going to get it on sale. So ask for a much deeper discount on anything tech-wise. Net, I don't necessarily see anything here. I like Cloudflare. Really, Cloudflare just annoys me, not as the stock, but when I'm like trying to log on to something and it tells me that I'm having to wait. Yeah, I'm not really seeing it here on Cloudflare. Not a setup I like. I like nice, clean 50% or volume profile settings. XYL, Xylem. Got something marked up here, but 11684 is obviously where I think that this 50% is for this one. So it's coming down. I don't know what that does. Looks like I looked at a trade back in September for somebody on this stream here. Let's see. What else we got? We'll do yours, Zishan, after this one. So Philip Morris, again, you're talking about something that I own, or excuse me, Altria. I'm still living. Oh, look at that. Had earnings. I've had this as a dividend play for years. Like not only years as in decades, but also more recently in the 2020, 2021s. I actually, when everyone was busy chasing pot stocks, I had this thesis that the best pot stock play was going to be MO because they had bought a huge stake in some Canadian growery. And so in other words, you have this large corporate entity that if and when pot becomes fully federally legal, they were going to be the best positioned to cultivate, process, market these products. And I said, well, you know what? That's what I'd rather be in. And while I wait, I can earn about a 7% dividend while the rate I get on anything else is zero. This was back in 2021 and 2022, right? And it's just kind of held around here, paying me a 7% dividend this whole time I've been waiting, and now the stock is going up. So I don't have a trading strategy for MO, but it's been a very, very lucrative stock to hold, and so I like it very much. Still do. I don't know when to tell you to buy it because, like I said, I saw it more as a money parking strategy. But as opposed to what people were doing when I think Biden came in and they thought that he was going to legalize weed. I mean, the one thing I can think of is Tilray, T-L-R-Y, Tilray. Is that right? How's Tilray doing? That was the favorite of yesteryear for pot stocks. Oh, okay. So, and that's why. That's why when your buddies are chasing this kind of stuff. Yeah, this was 2021. Actually, I remember it from back in 2018, back before a lot of people started doing trading. That was when pot stocks were really kind of hitting it off, and that's a very typical, guys. Just go, if you're watching the live stream here, you're already above the competition. Next year, the year after, it was kind of AI, but there's always every few years going to be some hype, and you just need to look at this chart or look at pot stocks, um, EV stocks. Just if you're watching this, I'm trying to put you ahead of the competition here. When all your buddies at work or all your gaming buddies, your sports buddies are talking about all this money they're doing chasing something that looks like this, I want you to take a step back, resist that very human emotion to FOMO, because if you're hearing about it after everyone's bragging about it, there's only one thing that's going to happen to your position if that's when you're getting in. And this is it. And like I said, when all my buddies, when all my people on my Discord that would pop in were talking about pot stocks in 2021, I looked at the market. I saw that Altria was, let's look at where was Altria in 2021. I looked and saw 2021. Yeah, it's right here. Let's clean this up. Somewhere in this general area. Okay. All right. And so how much did my position go down? Just, without going back and looking at my actual buy-in point. Where's my arrow? Oh, sorry, ruler. Yeah, I mean, it was down at some point 7%, 17%. But remember, this is for 3 years, and I'm getting about a 7% dividend. So if I'm down 12%, if I'm down 17% in 3 years, I'm really still break even, aren't I? Tilray, that pot stock, was not paying a dividend. And now I come out of it pretty good. Whereas all your friends, all your buddies that are chasing those big, big gains, they're sitting at $2 a share on Tilray. So yes, I love MO. I like it as a pot stock. Has it become a pot stock yet? No. But I've been paid to be wrong about my thesis just because I've been a little more conservative in my narrative. So these are things that old Uncle Norrock tries to get people to learn. All right. Let's finish this thing up right here because MJ is a pot ETF. How's MJ doing? Oh yeah, I remember that. I forget these things. Alternative harvest. I bet you MJ has MO in it. What? Yeah. I mean, guys, there's going to be these hype cycles, whether it's crypto or EV or AI or pot stocks. Another one is coming. And unless you are really on the forefront of it, unless you're getting in when people are still in doubt, when people are still questioning you buying it, when people are still saying like, that's not going to do anything, unless you're getting into it at that point, any point after it, you're going to lose money. Because once everyone's accepted that it's the best thing ever, you can only lose. Take that to the bank. Just remember that. Just remember that. It's hard. It's hard because we want to be part of the crowd. Maybe it's something about our herd mentality as humans, but I've just seen it so many times, guys. It's just so consistent. This chart right here, for all the things. This is not a chart of an ETF to me. This is a chart of human emotion. Is what it is. It really. And you always get these little bitty these little rays of hope. I mean, how's GME doing? While we're on that topic, GME is one of these things that has definitely brought up. Oh, you remember back in earlier this year, May of this year, old Roaring Kitty tried to rekindle a social media career, and got everybody kind of bullish. But look at what it came up to. It came up to precisely the 50% of the whole run up, and then yeah. Speaking of which, speaking of DJT, Trump Media, or AKA Truth Social, is another one of these. Yeah, so I thought this was going to be an interesting like poll kind of proxy for trading the poll numbers. It hasn't been, but as Trump has been kind of showing some good poll numbers, people have been kind of running it up. But yeah, that's kind of stalled out. And where did it stall out? It stalled out at the 50% roughly. Yeah. So these cycles, this is why we can trade with some confidence, because these cycles repeat themselves. All right, I think Zishan had a few to look at, and then we're going to kind of wrap things up, unless you guys got more to look at. So, yeah, LRCX, that name sounds familiar. And again, Zishan, we're going to start a fund, or I'm going to start a fund. It's going to be my money. Did we talk about this last week? This looks good. 50%? Oh, yeah. See, this is one that I would just go ahead and put on. Well, I might jump into it just here too, because it's already hit, but put in a risk adjusted trade with a stop below the 71.35 and a target around 108, and that would be just a nice. We'll do a nice 3-to-1 on that. That would be a good one for the account, the Livestream account. Just I'd be more than willing to throw it out there. I know where my risk is. I know when to get out. Hims, is that Hims? Is that the hair loss and male enhancement stock? Is this a volume profile hold? I wonder if it is or not. Oh, it's Hims and hers. Honestly, I would. Yeah, it's kind of wonky. I like the LRCX a lot better. I do. You do have probably 50% inside this trend. Looks okay there, but I would have well, there's nothing wrong with it. That's fine. That's fine. Because you didn't quite you still could come up and retest that. So yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It's wonky. It's kind of in the middle there. It's not perfect like I'd like to see, but yeah, it'll work. All right. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'm going to return to my vacay. Hope you have a good weekend. Take a break off politics like I'm trying to do. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot to digest. Short answer, no matter what happens, stock market going to go up. But everything else might be some interesting volatility noise to trade. So do it wisely. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.